Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. I think I'm live. I think everything is working properly. This one is going to be a little bit more casual because I actually have a bit of a backlog going on right now with videos, so I'm okay. I just want to cover the interesting stuff that I specifically wanted to hit, one of which is about UFOs. So let me pull this up. Where did the UFOs thing go? Here it is. Open. Got it. Okay. Good. Yeah, let's hit this. Right. Okay. Perry Stone, televangelist. You guys may be familiar with him. He's claiming that the government is briefing pastors on UFOs, and they are actually. A congressman called in a bunch of pastors, like 5 pastors or 10 or something, and briefed them on UFO findings, basically preparing them for the eventual release of information, which they are saying is going to come out by July, that aliens have visited us and told us that they created us, but they're really demons. That's the claim. It's wild, dude. Oh my God. Apparently, Perry Stone wasn't actually in the meetings, but a pastor close to him told him about the meetings. Some of them who were in the meeting, Bishop Alan Didio, this guy on screen here, nope. And this guy, what's his name? Ragland. This guy's name is Ragland, Todd Ragland or something. So I want to listen to what they had to say about the UFOs, because it gets really, really wild. Let me find the other Ragland one, because I had 2. Where was it? Oops.
Secret government pastor meeting. Oh yeah, you've seen it. It's going.
Yeah, this one right here, but this is a long form one, so we may.
So that this technology.
Okay. Yeah, just give this a listen.
And these individuals who are putting on the meeting, again, they've worked within intelligence. They have access to, have had access to classified information. And they were warning us that disclosure, not just that it's coming, because that's been said for years and years and years. It's coming this year, possibly by July, if not before July. That was the big news flash. And what they said was going to happen, happened exactly as they said it. And one of those meetings, I believe Representative Burleson called into one of those meetings, which is why Perry Stone, when he did his video, I think he was referring to government officials being in the meeting. I think that's what he was referring to, because Perry wasn't actually in any of those meetings. He was just communicating secondhand information. But when Perry Stone came out, he was being attacked relentlessly. There's no meeting. No.
So that's kind of the premise of the whole thing. This guy says that he was in the meeting. And again, it's Burleson, who I believe runs the Intelligence Committee in the House or something like that. And some pastors took it a little further than Burleson said was justified. Ragland specifically made some pretty sweeping, intense claims. But, I mean, the fact that these UFO meetings happen in the first place is absolutely wild to me. Truthfully, I don't believe we've been visited by aliens. I don't think there's any chance that we're going to be visited by aliens, certainly not anytime soon. I do, however, think that the Christian nationalist nutcases in government are worried about what's going to happen with their flock, quote unquote, if something comes out like the government definitively says, yes, UFOs are real, and yes, they really have visited us. If that happened, it would shoot like a hole in Christian theology, because like, what are they going to have a copy of the Bible with them? I mean, did Jesus die for their sins too? Were they really not created by God? Does that mean evolution is real? Like, all of this stuff can be reconciled without issue with regular Christians who aren't complete nutcases. But when you're dealing with right-wing young earth creationist extremists, it becomes a lot harder to grapple with. It's a lot harder to figure out with their theology. Anyway, listen to this one.
In the future, they will be coming out, at least one of them will be coming out and sharing their information and who they are, which is probably why Paula White came out. She wasn't in either of the meetings that I'm aware of. And she was responding, as most people were, to the spin on social media. The government is pulling in pastors and giving them talking points about, listen, I don't trust the government any further than I can throw it. The government's pulling me in a room trying to tell me something. I'm not going to believe a word they're saying. In fact, in this meeting, I was pushing back and asking hard questions, wondering, is this a psyop? Is this a psychological operation?
Okay. God, they're... All right, whatever.
But I knew one of the individuals hosting the meeting, and I know him to be a man of God, and I know him to be sincere. So that's what caused me to even show up to the meeting.
I'm sorry, hang on, let me stop. Get! Go! No! Kashmir being a pain in the ass.
I know him to be a man of God, and I know him to be sincere. So that's what caused me to even show up to the meeting at all. And everything they said and that they shared with us has been happening, has been playing out exactly as they said it.
And when did the meeting occur? You don't have to give me the exact date, but was it in 2025, 2026? You know,
this was in February of this year, so months ago. So this was when this broke several weeks ago. It had been months that we've all been talking about this. We immediately came out of the meeting, me and Joseph Z and Tony Merkel.
Wow, Joseph Z was in the meeting. That dude is absolutely unglued from reality. I'm surprised.
Immediately did a live stream the next morning, talking about the meeting, going into details, and we did several live streams since then. And here's what I think. I think that the meeting itself wasn't a psyop. I wonder if it going viral all of a sudden was a psyop. Did somebody decide, okay, now we're going to release this and make this a big deal?
I mean, it was Perry Stone, right? Perry Stone was the one that made this into a big deal.
And it just so happened that caused the conversation. This is really wild to kind of be a part of history. It caused the conversation to be pushed so forward that the administration actually, within a week of this conversation about these pastors, released documents historically. Representative Burleson called it historic, the documents that were released in the first dump since Roswell. 79
Big dumps, big massive dumps of documents.
9 years we've been waiting on this.
Anyway, so Ragland, he took it a step further and claimed that the aliens basically told us that they are our creators and that we shouldn't believe them, that God is the creator of all life and blah, 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 all that shit, you know. And Burleson, the congressman involved in all of this, he's a conspiracy theorist who believes we're being controlled by aliens and lizard people and shit, you know the type. He pushed back on that. He said, we haven't been visited or whatever, I guess, yet. And Ragland had to come out with a public apology over this.
I want to address this.
Sorry, it's really quiet. Let me try turning this up. I don't know what's up with all the background noise here.
I want to address this video that's going around of me in regards to the meeting of pastors that gathered to discuss the upcoming so-called UFO disclosure. In this video, I stated that a congressman from Missouri had called in to speak to the pastors. And of course, it's being revealed now that that is Congressman Eric Burleson. And he did call in, but he called in to encourage us and to thank us pastors for the work that we're doing and that we are, speaking the truth to our people and
speaking the truth,
pointing them to Jesus and not get distracted of things in the world. In that moment, I began to state things that I have always said. That is my opinion, and my opinion is, and that's exactly all it is my opinion, that when this disclosure comes out, that it will be spun, that it is, that the aliens have always been here, that they seeded us, that they created the first religion, and all of that.
I love it, dude. I love how psychotic this is.
I should have stopped and paused and said, and this part is my opinion. In the heat of that, I didn't. I led with saying that they had called the pastors, and I went straight into my opinion. So I want to make it very clear that Eric Burleson did not say those words. Those were my words. And I want to own it, and I want to apologize directly to Congressman Eric Burleson for any problems that this has caused you, any confusion.
Fantastic.
And to any of the viewers that have seen this video clip. So I wanted to state the facts and make it very, very clear what actually happened.
Dude, is he in a fucking grocery store? What is going on right now?
That was my opinion and not the congressman. So thank you so much. And the bottom line is this: I just want you to focus on the Lord. And that was the purpose of that meeting, is to just focus on Jesus. And as Jesus said, be not deceived. So thank you for your time, and God bless.
What the hell is going on in the background? Anyway, the point is that they, for some inexplicable reason, chose to include massive conspiracy theorists in this meeting. I guess it's no surprise since Burleson himself is a complete fucking conspiracy theorist. But it's fascinating. Fascinating to see how, like, the direction that these nutcases go in. On Wednesday, every Wednesday and Thursday, I watch long-form stuff on my Unfiltered channel, Owen Unfiltered. I'm probably going to watch this video from him, which is him making those claims about aliens visiting us and claiming to be our creator and all of that other shit. So stick around for that if you're interested. And I'll probably also watch Perry Stone and his UFO Files video. Let me just see. Does he have anything interesting here? Let's just jump to the center of this. I wrote this app I named Briefcase. It creates a transcript. It transcribes videos. And I run it through an analysis tool, and it finds the most shocking or most unusual words and phrases and stuff. Conspiracy, misinformation. It marks them down here so I can just jump to the spot. Let's see what this says.
You know, there were...
I'm sorry, let me turn it down a bit here.
And this is what concerns me, and let me go back to that again, because, you know, there were, and this is the mystery of ages past, before the flood of Noah, there is definitely evidence. There is evidence in historical documents that are 5,000 years old, 5,500 years old, 4,000 years old, that there were a group of giants on the earth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Along with the UFO files, they're saying, Burleson, the congressman involved, is saying that he wants them to release the Nephilim files as well. He believes the government has files on the Nephilim. Absolutely fucking insane.
How did they get here? Moses said God sent down, well, the Jewish rabbis, the early fathers teach us that God sent angels down in the form of men. Mm-hmm. You can see that in Genesis 19. Right. Here's a good example of it. To teach men the things of God and righteousness, because there was no written word from God. So basically in the Old Testament, angels were the ones that showed up, talked to Abraham, talked to Isaac, talked to David. God used angels before there was the Torah to reveal himself. And you know that. It's all through the Old Testament. But when you look at what all of this is about, those angels, when they became men, could sin just as men could. Right. Christ came from heaven in the body of a woman. Paul said in Hebrews, a body that has prepared me. But when Jesus came forth as a human and as a man, he could be tempted in all points as you and I. Right. Without sin. Yet he was the Lord. He was God, but he was man. Right. But the God.
Okay, you've completely lost me, Perry. I am so goddamn fucking lost right now. Anyway, yeah, wild story, dude. Check this clip out. There's a ton of conspiracy through this whole video from this Ragland guy. Let me find the most interesting spot here. Greer's UFO Disclosure Conference, government document dump. Sandy introduces a first-hand account of the pastor's UFO meeting. Describes the origin of the pastor's UFO meeting, explaining how they were invited through their contact, Tony Merkel. Describe a private UFO briefing they attended, discuss what they believe. Let me search the transcript.
Is the creator of the universe. He's never not going to create. So it's always been something in my mind to say, well, how can we be the only ones? Like, God's not going to stop creating just with us. But the more I look into this, the more I see the Old Testament and what was told to us there of fallen angels and Nephilim. I mean, this is in the Bible. There's nothing that says that fallen angels, that Nephilim just disappeared. And so I believe that this could be an aspect of it. You know, there are things that we have seen that could resemble portals.
Oh my God, it's so stupid, dude. Insane. All right, check this one out. I'm just kind of looking through the chapter markers that I have in this video, seeing if there's anything interesting here. If there's anything that I play, just a post, an editing note, just remove the stuff that's not that interesting. Okay. This one appears to be interesting. Yeah. Let's listen from here.
Just giving you some examples.
Okay.
They talked about non-human arms race between the United States.
In this meeting with Representative Burleson, she's saying they talked about non-human arms races. Okay.
Russia and China. And I think a lot of you have felt that that is what's going on.
That's not
We're
news.
battling for to develop weapons and tech. And this is my opinion again. When I hear President Trump talk about we have things that they don't even know about and can't even imagine, I think it leans into this thought about the arms race and about tech and about weapons. And, you know, everybody's trying to find out what the other guys got and so forth. Is this okay?
Yes.
Next up, we talked about Jake Barber and the egg-shaped craft, the use of psionics.
Yeah.
Was mentioned.
Was a big
Psionics. Okay.
deal in that meeting.
Yes.
Psionics was a big
Psionics, and I don't even want to say the names of some of these other abilities because we just get out into the weeds. But you can imagine different kinds of things that you can do with your mind and that people can try to do to you. So I'm not going to say any more about that. We talked.
No, please say more. Please say more. I want to hear more about these psionics that the government got from aliens that they told you about in these briefings. What the fuck is happening right now?
Talked about Chris Bledsoe,
Yep.
Diana Pasulka, and summoning craft.
Right.
I think you know what I'm trying to say there. We talked about
Oh, please tell me more.
Dr. Stephen Greer. We talked about pilots and what they have seen for decades and are still seeing. We talked about different names of programs like Gateway and et cetera, different agencies like DARPA. We got in the Wayback Machine, and we touched on Jack Parsons, the Jet Propulsion Lab, Project Paperclip, and on and on and on.
Bro, these are all just conspiracy theories. I mean, let me rephrase. Some of these things are real. DARPA is real. Project Paperclip was real. But they're like fundamental, underpinning, foundational ideas for all the conspiracy theories. Like Project Paperclip was where the government, the U.S. government, didn't want the Soviet Union to poach Nazi scientists. So instead, they hired the Nazi scientists to work for us. And who was it? Werner von Braun? Is that who it was? Who was hired? He was a Nazi scientist who was hired to head NASA in the 1940s to the 60s. And he invented the multi-stage rocket, the thing that we needed to reach outer space in the first place, if I'm not mistaken. That's Project Paperclip. But like, those are the real parts. These people do nothing but make shit up and add on to the ridiculous garbage.
So you can see what Sandy is saying is part of it was a systematic history lesson of how we got here. And they brought the receipts on how we got here.
And
But wait, the aliens brought the receipts? Is that what he's saying?
A lot of things that we had heard about, that we had theorized about, was solidified.
And listen, there were some deeper things that I shouldn't talk about,
Right.
quite frankly. And so I'm not going
We're
to.
not going
But I'm
to.
trying to give you an example and maybe get the wheels of your mind turning to understand what they were doing. But
Okay, so he apologized for this. It seems pretty clear to me that she was not only implying but outright saying that they told them a bunch of really wild shit in these meetings and that they told them not to talk about it, right? That they actually brought the receipts, quote unquote, and disclosed a bunch of shit. That's definitely what she just said, right?
I want to tell you this, and please hear me. Please hear me.
Listening.
Again and again, we were cautioned. Do not focus on these things.
Think about it.
And these details, because you can get lost in the weeds.
Yep.
All of this intel distracts from the mission
Yes.
that these guys were on, and they were trying to educate us that there is a coming deception.
Yep, that's right.
That will certainly follow closely behind disclosure.
Yep. And that's ultimately what this was about. It was not about telling us about programs and everything. It was to wake us up, to go back and wake the church up.
Wake up, sheeple.
Yes.
That is it.
Yes.
I'm telling you, that was the purpose. These are
Yes.
men of God who love God saying, we need to make sure the church is ready.
Right.
That's all it was about.
So be not deceived. Don't be overtaken by false narratives.
Yep.
All right, here's
I love how she puts a T in the word false. False narratives.
kind of an aside of something else that was mentioned and thrown at us. They mentioned that there's been talk and banter about a coin being minted with President Trump on the face of it,
Allegedly.
with a UFO over his shoulder. Is that true? Is that going to happen? I don't know. That's
Dude, oh my God, I want to watch this whole thing so bad. If you want to watch it with me, by the time you see this video, it'll probably already be released on my Unfiltered channel. Or if not, I'll be streaming it for sure. Probably Wednesday and Thursday. That's when I do my streams. So keep a lookout for it. This shit is insane.
kind of out there for me, and I'm not hinging anything on that. But here is something that is interesting. And I'm going to try to read this off my phone. If you can cast that up on the screen. So in my trying to find more information about this possible supposed coin that's going to be minted, I came across this. And this is called Tuttle Capital's UFO D, which is for disclosure, positioned at the center of the storm as Trump orders release of government UFO files. And this was from February 20th. And so here is just a little bit of what I want to read to you. With President Donald Trump directing classified UFO file releases and former President Barack Obama declaring aliens real, Tuttle Capital.
Okay, that's a little more complicated than that. Obama very clearly said that they're real in his opinion. He didn't say that they had any. He said that they do not have any government files on this stuff to indicate that aliens have visited us. But okay, conspiracy theorists like these people right here. It was reasonable to interpret what Obama said there as him implying, at least heavily, that we have been visited by aliens. That was fair. But conspiracy theorists like this are always taking the most conspiratorial interpretation and running with it. Every single time.
UFO Disclosure ETF, which is an exchange traded fund, is offering investors a first of its kind vehicle to capitalize on a historic shift in government transparency. Tuttle Capital Management's UFO Disclosure EFT, launched February the 5th, 2026, is an actively managed fund invested in aerospace, defense, advanced materials, energy companies positioned to potentially benefit from government disclosure.
Oh my God, dude. She can't leave it at just the conspiracy theory alone. she has to twist in a bunch of other conspiratorial shit. Fucking wild.
Of non-human intelligent technologies.
Anyway, like I said, I don't believe aliens have visited us. I just don't. I don't think that we're gonna be able to be visited by aliens. Certainly not anytime soon. I think the universe is way too vast for that. But yeah, tell me what you think about it in the comments. This is entertaining as hell to me, honestly. Absolutely wild. By the way, let me do a quick ad for my book so I don't forget. What do I want to say about it? Maybe I should script it instead. And I'll insert this 26 minutes. We just write a script for this real fast. And I'll read the script and you guys can continue listening to that for just a second. That shit was wild, dude. All right, listen to this for just a second while I write this.
On the forefront, and the president has even tasked Eric Burleson with going to these facilities, getting into these facilities, and being able to see what is in these facilities. And I think you know what I mean, because David Grush and either Anna Paulina Luna or Nancy Mace, way back in these hearings, were talking about, what did you see? Right. Did you see biologicals? Or you, bodies, basically? Did you see craft? I think you've all have seen that 100 times. But at this point, having talked about that, the congressman absolutely did call in. I want to turn it over to you at this point.
Yeah, well, that's the part that went viral when it came to me, because I was on another program. That's not our program. I was a guest on another show. And, you know, a lot of times when you're a guest on another show, you're done. It gets posted. Well, you know this about me. And the Big Picture family certainly knows this about me. I mean, we make fun about squirrel. I mean, it's like this is my life. Okay. I don't know. What do I have? Is it ADHD? I don't know what it is. What do I have?
We do need to get a diagnosis, because
I don't know if I've ever been officially diagnosed.
You obviously are very intense,
yes,
and you talk really fast,
yes,
and you jump from one thing to the other
all the time.
We had it earlier tonight. You just started off talking to me about something. I'm like, what are you talking?
In my mind.
You just shift. In his mind, he thought I was with him, and
I thought you knew we changed the subject.
And I could just jump right in on the conversation. And I'm like, I don't.
Okay, let me just read this scripted ad real fast. By the way, I'd really appreciate it if you guys checked out my new book, God's People: Christian Nationalism in the Third Reich. It's a set of biographical essays about major figures in the Christian nationalist movement in Nazi Germany. I did original research for it, including research on Father Kuhn, the guy who said, "In the name of Christ, fire," as death squads attacked people. I put a ton of work into it, and I hope you guys enjoy it. owenmorgan.com/godspeople. Link in the description. It's on Amazon and Audible if you prefer. It's on Amazon and Audible if you prefer the audio version. All right, that'll work. Just an editing note. I'll grab that and create a video out of it that will go in the Final Cut Pro project template. And we can insert that trade-off between Patreon and that ad, just so I don't forget. All right. That'll work. Let's see here. It releases in a week, by the by. Pretty excited about it. You guys have no idea how much time and effort I put into especially the Father Kuhn chapter. I think that's my strongest chapter. I did original research for Father Kuhn and for Reinhold Krause, and for the Christian nationalism element. There were actual Christian nationalists that called themselves Christian nationalists who took over the Protestant movement in Nazi Germany. I would say my second strongest chapter is probably the Bonhoeffer chapter, but I didn't add anything original. They're biographical essays about people that I felt are important to the story. So Father Kuhn, fully original. No, I didn't, I used Hungarian sources for this. And I went through Hungarian newspapers from the era and everything. A lot of the shit the stories I tell are not in English. You cannot find them in English. So really, really cool shit. Let's see. Which story do I want to hit next? Pastors and UFOs is done. Hang on, let me look. All right, cool. Let's talk about this. There's this Christian nationalist dude named Seth Gruber. He's making a pretty big splash. Well, he has a claim about Hitler, and I happen to know a lot about this subject. Check this out.
There's a weird thing, obsession.
I'm sorry, let me turn it up a bit more.
There's a weird thing, obsession with Hitler, where he has become worse than the Lord of Flies and the Prince of Darkness. And
is he not worse than the Lord of Flies? Hitler bad, right? Can we agree on that? I would like to think.
That to me, that's a really weird thing. Maybe do another podcast on that another time. But so it's 1942. Hitler was not a conservative. His problem was not that he went too far right.
Oh, fucking please. This cannot be real. He's lying here, right? Like, he knows this is bullshit, right? Unfortunately, we have to dismantle these lies because right-wingers keep telling it. But let's keep listening here.
If you believe that, that's retarded. You need to stop reading the publications that you're reading. He was a vegan.
Sorry, I'm going to have to cut slurs. That's just the type of people we have to cover sometimes. So he was a vegan. Yes, that's true. I believe that he was. If I'm not mistaken, though, he was actually a vegetarian for health reasons because he had stomach problems basically his whole life, for a long time anyway. He also didn't drink alcohol. That doesn't make him left-wing. We'll get into it in a second.
He liked soy milk, or whatever the iteration of that was then, Tim. Nazi stands for National Socialist. But he threw homosexuals in jail. Isn't that what the far right does, Seth? No, there was some weird boy adult sex stuff going on at the highest levels of the Third Reich.
I'm sorry, what? What the fuck is he talking about right now? No, let me set this straight. What is left wing? What is right wing? The terms originally came from France in the Revolution, I believe. And it meant people to the left of the king and people to the right of the king. There was an aisle, and there were two groups of people physically to his left and his right. Some of them were pro-aristocracy. Some of them were anti-aristocracy, basically. And there's a book that I reference in my original book on the subject, Was Hitler an Atheist? That kind of outlines how the left and the right saw each other. Let me see if I can find that, actually. Let me pull up my book and just quote it from that. Hold on. Book project. Was Hitler an Atheist? Release ready. Here it is. I'm sorry, hang on. Let me just open this in preview. French Road. Yeah, okay, here you go. So there's a book that I reference in my book titled... Shit, what was it called? I don't remember the name of the book now, and it's in my end notes. Here's what I wrote. the terms were coined during the 1789 French Revolution. The people physically to the president's left favored the revolution, and those to the right favored maintaining the existing aristocracy. According to Voices of the French Revolution, 1988, the people to the right described themselves like this: defenders of religion and of the throne, friends of order and truth, like law and order. I'm sure that's a pretty familiar term. All good Frenchmen who love their country, patriotism, their religion, ultra-nationalistic Christianity, and the happiness of their brothers. And here's how the people on the right describe people to the left: principal enemies of the church and of the monarchy, Jews, Protestants, deists, academics of the current philosophies, all the brigands who burn chateaux, pillage mansions, set up gallows, all the scoundrels who have bathed France in blood and yet still breathe, thanks to the impunity of their frightful instigators. So the right at the time described described the left as atheists, educated, intellectual elites, philosophers, secularists, people like that. Identical labels to those used for the left today by the right. What is conservative? It means traditional values, right? Traditional things. Like, you want to go back to a time when things were like this. And progressive or left-wing means you want to move forward, you want to change, you want to build on what we have. You want to improve the lives of people, you want liberty and freedom and things like that. So was Hitler left-wing? In no way, shape, or form. Nationalism is an inherently right-wing ideology. He called himself a national socialist. That term socialist was for propaganda reasons, explicitly. Like, that's been stated. It was for propaganda reasons. They were trying to bring in the average person. They were trying to get them into the movement. But when Hitler actually got into power, he famously crushed trade unions and socialists and communists and things like that. I mean, you guys know the famous poem. First they came for the communists, and I said nothing because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I said nothing because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I said nothing because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I said nothing because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. That's Martin Niemöller. I write about him in my book, God's People. He has a whole biographical essay in there. He was actually a Nazi himself and the leader of the confessing church, the church opposition to the Nazi movement, basically. Anyway, the point is that Hitler crushed socialists when he got into power. It was purely a propaganda move. He was an ultra-nationalist. That is not a left-wing ideology. That is inherently right-wing. Hitler was in no way, shape, or form left-wing, not even a little bit. He is the definition of right-wing.
Some weird boy adult sex stuff going on at the highest levels of the Third Reich.
Unfortunately, that happens in a lot of power structures, but, the Nazis looked the other way in a lot of cases. So, I guess you could say that. They looked at the other way in some cases, and they didn't look the other way in others.
Weird sexual perversion. Okay, so Hitler was a leftist, not a far right person.
That's complete nonsense. Weirdly, though, Dennis Prager spreads this same kind of lie, the exact same lie. Did you guys know that this dude is paralyzed from the waist down? Now, or no, from the neck down. He's paralyzed from the neck down. This happened the weekend that Trump won the election. And I didn't know about this because I kind of tuned out of the news entirely around that time. But yeah, he's paralyzed from the neck down. He fell in the shower, I believe.
Well,
was
I'm sorry, let me fix the audio on this.
far. Dennis, I'd like your perspective on whether you think Hitler was far right or was actually a far left ideologue. Okay, thank you for your time. I enjoy listening to Fireside Chat every week.
It is an insult to claim that Hitler was left-wing. It's Holocaust revisionism. And coming from a Jewish person like Dennis Prager, it's fucking vile and evil.
All the best. Thank you. Hitler was left-wing in that he believed in socialism.
No, he did not. He did not believe in socialism. He crushed socialists.
Remember, Nazism is National Socialism.
This is literally all they have.
Very few people know that, especially if you go to college where you don't learn much.
What?
But that is what Nazism stands for, National Socialism. In that sense, it was left-wing, but it was not left-wing in another sense. The left divided the world by class. That's the classic Marxist division of the world, class.
Do you mean the left wanted the right to, or wanted the filthy rich to pay their fair share on taxes? Is that what you mean? No fucking shit.
The proletariat and the oppressor, if you will. Whereas Hitler divided the world by race. Race is not a left-wing or a right-wing value.
That's complete nonsense. The right very famously embraces racism, always has. The right famously has drawn things on racial lines, on racial supremacy. What the fuck are you talking about? Coming from a Jewish dude, really? What is wrong with him? This is fucking disgusting.
It has become a left-wing value in the last 25 years in the West. All of a sudden, race matters incredibly. The left...
Yes, racial fairness. People having a fair shot, no matter what their race is. Yes, that's important to the left. It's important to me. Making sure that there's no disparity in policing. Making sure that if people are, like, being pulled over, that it doesn't disproportionately affect black people for literally no fucking reason, but just because they get harassed more often. Yeah, that's important to me. But the right, Republicans in the United States particularly, have always been about white nationalism, white supremacy. And Dennis, it wasn't so long ago that your minority group was being targeted by the right. In fact, they still are. I don't understand people like Dave Rubin, Dennis Prager, and Ben Shapiro who side with the right as often as they do.
Quit it. Get it.
I don't understand how they can justify this to themselves. Even after watching everything unfold recently with the neo-Nazi movement popping up the way it has. It's wild.
Has actually in some ways abandoned classic Marxist division by class and now made it by race.
It's complete nonsense. That is not how anything works. I am in favor of everybody being treated equally and fairly. I'm in favor of everyone having a fair shot at life. If that means we have to focus on fixing racial disparities, making sure over-policing isn't a problem, fixing the issue where people with black-sounding names like Tyrone are hired for jobs at a lower rate than people with white-sounding names like John, if that's the thing I have to focus on, that's what I'm going to focus on. I'll do whatever it takes to try to close that gap to make things more fair. But me focusing on trying to close that gap is racist in his mind because it's hurting white people. You're seeing how he's completely inverting reality, right? This is Holocaust revisionism right here. And it's fucking disgusting. That shit, well, I don't know that at this level, let me rephrase. I don't know that this level of Holocaust revisionism is illegal in Europe, in Germany, or wherever. But there's a pretty strong argument that it should be. I'm not making that argument. I'm not necessarily saying it should. But there's a strong argument for it. To flagrantly, blatantly lie like this about the Holocaust. To use their deaths to your advantage is fucking disgusting.
But race was neither left nor right until this moment. It is not a right-wing value.
That's complete and total delusion. What?
I mean, I live among people on the right. None of them, not one person I know is a racist. They find the idea preposterous.
Wow, well, that proves it. The KKK was really a left-wing movement, huh? Are you fucking kidding me right now?
So it's not right to say that he was right-wing, and it's not right to say he was only left-wing. He was partially left-wing.
That's complete nonsense. He was completely right-wing. There was no left-wing value with Hitler.
And by the way, he hated capitalism. Hated it. I just read a new biography of Hitler, and that was a major part of the biography.
He talked a little bit of shit about capitalism, a little bit. Not much. But when he actually got into power, what did he do? Corporatism. It was very much like what we're seeing with Donald Trump. He cozied up to all of the filthy rich elites, and he took it an additional step by basically he set up a governmental system where corporations kind of created economic policy and helped write the laws. Corporatism. And it was also done that way in Italy, in Mussolini's Italy, a corporatist government. It was still effectively capitalist. It was just the companies were now running economic policy instead of like the governments or whatever. Socialist governments allow workers to own the means of production and supply. So like private companies now operate like 501c3 nonprofit organizations in a socialist government, in a proper socialist government. That's how it would go. And the workers all own a share of the company, and they vote on their bosses, and their bosses vote on their bosses, all the way up the chain. Labor unions baked right into the system, things like that. That is not what Hitler set up when he got into power. Not even close. So this is just completely made up.
How much the man hated capitalism. That's also not taught in college.
That's because it's not fully true. You're leaving out context, like really, really important context. Anyway, the point is, the right is obsessed with separating themselves from Hitler right now. Wonder why? What could cause that? Why would they want to not be associated with Hitler? Maybe because they're doing the exact same shit that he was doing, policy-wise, and demonizing groups of people and throwing people in concentration camps and shit. And they know this is a weak point for them. They know that it hurts them when they are compared to Hitler because, in a lot of ways, they are following in his footsteps. So they're trying to distance themselves. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. Absolutely wild, dude. 27 and 50. All right. Let's see here. Why is it that every video starts with them with their mouth open? That's kind of weird. All right, let's talk about Sam Sorbo. I'm going to run over, use the bathroom real fast, and grab something real fast. Just take me 1 second, and I'm going to let something play while I do. Let's see, the longest clip. What do we got here? 218, that's pretty long. Yeah. All right, let me play this. I'll be back in 1 second.
I think I'm going to look up Boston Children's Hospital phone number and see if I can find out.
Oh, they're doing the propaganda campaign where they use stochastic terrorism to attack Boston Children's Hospital. Okay, I'll be right back.
I think I'm going to look up Boston Children's Hospital phone number and see if I can find out what their number is and let them know what I think of that ad for Boston Children's Hospital psychologists. We should just support them, Sam. Support them as they mutilate their own bodies when they don't know what they're doing. This really is disturbing.
Well, they're a bunch of flippin' liars. They have no evidence to show that it's actually beneficial to the child to, quote, support them in their choices. My child thought that he could fly when he was 4 years old, and I did not take him to the roof and tell him to try it out. And that's exactly what they're doing with these children. Forgive me, I am very irate over this. It's child abuse. Boston Children's Hospital looks to be a completely perverted collection of individuals, and that they then use their authority because they have their degrees and their education from whatever university to convince these unwitting parents to go along with this insanity and allow children and actually encourage children to self-mutilate or to hire somebody to mutilate the child. And the fact that the insurance companies pay for this mutilation is an outrage. And it is.
Okay, I have to go grab one more thing. I'll be right back.
High time that we stood up against it and protected the most innocent among us. It used to be that as a culture and a society, we protected children. We enacted laws to protect children, to say, oh, you know what? Children at the age of 6 are too young to get married. But now we're going in the opposite direction, and we're saying children at the age of 6 should be taught about sex and lubrication and all kinds of sexual foreplay. And I just heard a story about a second grader having intercourse with a kindergartner on a school bus on the way to school. It is outrageous now. If you are Christian, if you're not Christian, you do not submit your children to this entire system of abuse that they call our public schools. That is an outrage. You have to protect your children at all costs from that, regardless of their level of education that they may or may not receive at the hands of these perverts.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm back. Just putting some chicken fries in the oven. I'm kind of hungry. Probably should have thought about that before the stream, but that's okay. This lady's a sick puppy. Oh, don't get me started. Actually, get me started. Let's go there. What was it she said?
To this entire system of abuse that they call our public schools. That is an outrage. You have to protect your children at all costs from that, regardless of their level of education.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Okay. All right. Let's talk about this story real fast. But before I forget, let me just write down this other feature I want for briefcase. Projects, briefcase, open. Just so I don't forget about this. Add a border to the video, a glowing, pulsing border to the video completes. Okay. That works. All right, check this out. A Connecticut law protects kids from abusive homeschooling parents. Republicans opposed it. This is on The Friendly Atheist by Hemant Mehta. I want to talk about this article here. This doesn't surprise me at all. I don't know if you guys know Sam Sorbo, this woman right here. It's Kevin Sorbo's wife. This is like her pet issue.
Why the rebranding?
So the first thing that you learn in school is you have to raise your hand to ask a question. That's a deterrent. That's actually teaching you viscerally, because you embody it.
Viscerally? I don't think you're wording. I don't think you're using that word correctly. Maybe if you had gone to school, then you would have known what that word meant.
Don't ask. That actually eventually becomes trust the expert.
Raising your hand in class means don't ask. It means trust the expert. What?
That's not education. That's not a thinking person.
That's correct. That's not education. They're not being educated by raising their fucking hand in class. That's literally raising your fucking hand in class. Very different from education, which is everything around raising your hand in class. Raising your hand in class is simply raising your hand in class. How should teachers do it then, you think? You think that they should tolerate 30 kids just shouting out anytime they want, just yelling out questions or whatever? You think they should just like stand up and walk out in the middle of the lesson if they have to use the bathroom or something? Is that what's the solution here? What do you suggest we do about this?
That's a non-thinking person. That's what the schools are turning out. That's what school produces.
This is, again, her pet. Oh my God, no way! Holy shit, dude! This guy was in Forrest Valkai's, that movie about him. Do you guys remember that? Forrest Valkai covered this guy. What was his name? Christian Grandpa or some shit? And he made a movie. And Forrest covered this creationist movie on his channel. And then this Christian Grandpa guy, or whatever the fuck his name is, got a hold of Forrest and did a whole live stream with him, talked to him about evolution and how it works and everything. And it was an honest, productive, good conversation. And then the guy spent the following 2 years making a new movie about Forrest. It was about Forrest Valkai. They even named the dude, he was a TikToker, the main character, who was an atheist and an evolutionist or whatever the fuck. And he went by the Renegade Teacher. On TikTok, Forrest Valkai's name is the Renegade Science Teacher or Renegade Scientist or something. Anyway, this guy played Forrest in this movie. That is so funny. I didn't even connect those dots. All right, so he's in conversation with Sam Sorbo.
So let's go back. We know that the education system is broken. What are the sources of that? How did that happen? And when did it happen?
Okay, so there's a couple schools of thought. It was on purpose. There were people...
Did you just say school?
Okay, so there's a couple schools of thought. It was on purpose. There were people at the helm who were driving it, Dewey and others, who were driving the education system and actually wanted to dumb down the populace. We borrowed from the Prussians. The Prussians instituted their quote-unquote education system in order to crank out good warriors.
Partly correct, yes. The Prussian Empire or whatever. Prussia was a state in Germany in after World War I. Prussia was a pretty powerful and influential state. I know so much about this subject because I wrote a book, multiple books now, about Germany in World War II era and Christian nationalism. God's People, Christian Nationalism in the Third Reich on Amazon and Audible if you want to check it out. But anyway, it releases officially on June 15th. Anyway, Prussia was a very powerful empire in that area and eventually joined into a single unit, a single federal state named Germany in 1918, I believe, maybe. And yes, Prussia, they became a state in Germany, the largest state. And they did kind of invent our modern day school system. That's true.
It's the one thing that you need from a warrior: obedience. You don't want them to question the expert. You want them to just trust the expert. And that's where we are today, right?
No, in no way, shape, or form. That's complete nonsense. You should always be questioning everything and everybody. That is the foundation of education. Question everything, learn, discover, experience, read, find things out, understand things on your own. That's how it's supposed to work. What are you smoking?
Right? So that was probably over 100 years ago they started implementing that.
Correct.
And it progressed slowly.
Wow, that is so fascinating that guy played Forrest. I got to send that to him. I'm going to send that shit to him. Hold on. Let me find that and send it before I forget. Where did it go?
Do it. I'm in total
agreement.
Brady.
So yeah, here we go. I got it. Yeah, I'm gonna send this to him real fast before I forget. I found a video with Sam Sorbo, Kevin Sorbo's wife, and she's being interviewed by the guy who played you in that stupid fucking movie. That's fantastic. Took me by surprise. Did not expect to recognize that dude in a random clip I'm covering on my channel. All right. Anything anybody wants me to ask him while I'm here? All right, let's continue. Okay, so now let's go back to the Friendly Atheist article, since we've covered a little bit of Sam Sorbo here. Connecticut lawmakers recently passed a perfectly sensible bill to protect children who are homeschooled. Naturally, Republicans are furious. House Bill 5468, now called Public Act number 2637, basically does two things. It requires all families to submit a form explaining how their kid will be educated. Example, public school, private school, homeschooling, etc. And it says parents who want to homeschool their kids must not be under investigation by the Department of Children and Families for an allegation of abuse or neglect. If an adult in that home is under investigation, the approval for homeschooling will not be granted. Students who are already being homeschooled will automatically be allowed to continue or grandfathered in. I was actually homeschooled from 7th grade to 11th, basically, and it was bad. It was so bad. I basically didn't learn anything for those years. Nothing. Because, because it requires direct, affirmative things to take place. It takes actual work. You can't just hand a kid the books and tell him to work through them and expect it to actually happen. You have to work through the books with the kid. And neither of my parents gave a shit. Homeschooling is not good. You should not be doing that. Terrible experience. And on top of that, there's way less social engagement if you're homeschooling. It should be limited to maybe 1,000 people per year in the United States, in my opinion. People who genuinely have no other choice but to homeschool. Somebody with a serious case of Down syndrome or some other mental condition. It should be so incredibly rare because of how easy it is to do real damage to a kid. This is back to Hemant Mehta. It's honestly the bare minimum a state should do to make sure students who are being homeschooled are in a safe environment. The same kind of background check, it must be said, also applies to public school teachers already. That's necessary given that there are documented situations where parents have removed their kids from public schools and from any sort of adult oversight only to abuse or neglect those children. There was a disturbing case of that in Waterbury last year that inspired lawmakers to make these changes. While most homeschooling parents have good intentions and aren't abusive in any way, the question is whether there's a way to protect kids in situations where they're not in the presence of any other adults who are looking out for their best interests. Quote, there are families, and they're not one-offs, that have used the pretense of homeschooling and the lack of any framework in our school districts to follow up to hide their children from public view and abuse and neglect them. That is not a theory. It is not a possibility. It has happened over and over and over again, Egan said. Sarah Egan, executive director of the Center for Children's Advocacy. They did a random sample of several hundred children who were withdrawn from school under the stated purpose of homeschooling and found that more than 30% of those children had been chronically absent from school. About 8% of those children lived in families with multiple reports of child abuse or neglect, and most alarming, 30 of those children in the random sample were in homes where caregivers are on the central registry for child abuse or neglect. That is exactly what happened to me. I was abused terribly as a child, like physically abused as a child, and they homeschooled me. That's when it all went downhill. It's not good. This is a very straightforward, simple step that could be taken, and it would help people, right? This is Hemant Mehta again. The fact that once Connecticut parents say they're homeschooling their kids, there's no way for the government to check up on them unless there's a formal report of suspicion of abuse or neglect. If those kids are shielded from view, though, how would anyone know there's a reason to be concerned? This new law simply requires a background check on the parents. It doesn't prevent abuse, but it could make sure the worst case scenarios are avoided. Right? So say you have 100,000 children, just throwing a number out there. And of those 100,000, right now, say 500 of them are being abused at home. And if we pass this law, those 500 would go to public school, and the world and the teachers would be able to identify that they're being abused, and they would be able to stop the abuse. Just imagine that for a moment. That's pretty much the situation. Numbers might be a little off. I haven't looked them up, but that's generally how it works. So if this law passes, it saves, say, 500 kids' lives. It stops 500 cases of children being abused by their parents. There is no downside to this. What is the downside? I honestly think that homeschooling should be illegal. It's so destructive. So why are conservatives so upset about this? Why did every Republican vote against this bill at every stage? Probably because of Sam Sorbo's involvement, honestly. This is her pet issue. Why did one right-wing commentator call it Orwellian? Why did a hate group leader say it was an example of the left's total disregard for the rights, responsibility, and authority that God has given to parents? Why did one Republican lawmaker claim this bill would destroy your way of life? Why did the Wall Street Journal opinion page title an essay, "Connecticut Goes After Homeschoolers"? Because they see any kind of regulation on homeschooling as an attack on their religious freedom, or their own freedom, or the start of a slippery slope that takes away their right to miseducate their children through a religious indoctrination if they so choose. Like, I don't believe that private schools should exist, honestly. I could be swayed one way or another on that argument. I'm not dead set on that as an argument. But I'm leaning maybe private schools shouldn't exist at all. Those private Christian schools, especially in New York City, I was looking into private schools because that's how you have to educate your kid a lot of the time in New York City, private schools. There's just no other choice. The public schools are really, really bad in some areas, and they're okay in others. We ended up going public school when my kid was when we were in New York City with my kid. Anyway, the Christian private schools are dirt cheap. They're like $5,000 a year, as opposed to $50,000 or $100,000 a year for any other normal private school. Christian private schools are about as destructive as homeschooling, if not more, in my opinion. And I don't think that it shouldn't work that way, right? Everybody is entitled to an education, and nobody deserves a better education than anybody else. All right, let's continue here. It says, because they see... no, I'm sorry. We read that. All right, let's continue here. This says, this is a quote. The CT Homeschool Network, which describes itself as a watchdog for homeschool freedom and privacy, called the legislation wholly irresponsible in a statement and argued homeschooling families are being used as the scapegoat for failures within DCF. Senator Rob Sampson says parents are not subjects, they are citizens, and they do not need the permission of this state government or anyone in this room to educate their own children. No, you're free to educate your own children. Go nuts. I have no problem with that. But they also need to receive an education that's state funded. And that should be the bare minimum, period. I don't give a fuck what excuses you have. Your child should receive an education like everybody else. I want to make sure, I want to guarantee that your child will be capable of multiplying 3 times 3 by the time they're 20 years old. I want to make sure that your kid is capable of reading by the time they get out of high school, by the time they're 18. That should be foundational. That should be the bottom level. At least they should be able to read. We should have minimum expectations for children and their capabilities, for their education. Why the fuck are Christian extremists going after education so hard? It is disgusting. These are ridiculous arguments, of course, because the bill isn't targeting homeschoolers so much as it's giving homeschooled kids a layer of protection that's already available to the ones who attend public school. Nor is the bill preventing parents from homeschooling their kids. Nor is it treating every homeschooling parent as a potential threat simply because some parents do wrong, quote unquote. At public schools, teachers and social workers are mandated reporters who can see if a child comes to school bruised or tells them they're not being fed or are being abused. It doesn't mean kids can't slip through the cracks, but there's at least a system in place to help those they can catch. That system disappears when kids are homeschooled without oversight. You know why I was homeschooled? The night before my parents decided to homeschool me, my dad beat my ass so hard I was literally black and blue, and I couldn't sit down. I had to lay on my stomach. I couldn't go to school. This bill would protect people like me in that exact situation. These people who are fighting this shit are the lowest scumbags on planet Earth. Genuinely. What the fuck is wrong with these people? Like, it's a very simple, straightforward rule. Background checks for parents who are homeschooling their children. Make sure there are no cases of neglect. It is so simple. You really can't do that. That is too much. And these anti-homeschool, or I'm sorry, and these pro-homeschooling people, Sam Sorbo, namely, they've been saying absolutely disgusting, vile shit like this for a while. These videos that I have here, these are from 2022. Listen to this one.
I think I'm going to look up Boston Children's Hospital phone number and see if I can find out what their number is and let.
This is during the stochastic terrorism event against Boston Children's Hospital when they were trying to get right-wingers to call in bomb threats and shit. To a fucking children's hospital. A children's hospital. Tell me again how much these people care about children.
Let them know what I think of that ad for Boston Children's Hospital psychologists. We should just support them, Sam. Support them as they mutilate their own bodies when they don't know what they're doing. This really is
like none of this is happening. This is complete fucking delusion.
Disturbing.
Well, they're a bunch of flippin' liars. They have no evidence to show that it's actually beneficial to the child to, quote, support them in their choices. My child thought that he could fly when he was 4 years old, and I did not take him to the roof and tell him to try it out. And that's exactly what they're doing with these children. Forgive me, I am very irate over this.
Yeah, I can tell. Unfortunately, it's completely fucking made up, the entire thing. Please get help.
This is it's child abuse. Boston Children's Hospital looks to be a completely perverted collection of individuals, and that they then use their authority because they have their degrees and their education from whatever university.
No fucking shit. People who are educated want to guide education generally? Wow. The gall, huh? Where do they get off? Who do they think they are?
To convince these unwitting parents to go along with this insanity and allow children and actually encourage children to self-mutilate or to...
Just complete delusion. Like, none of that is happening. What is she even talking about? To self-mutilate? She's talking about trans kids. She thinks that schools are convincing children to be trans. Of course, that's not happening. That was never happening. You cannot turn kids gay or trans. That is not how it works.
Hire somebody to mutilate the child, and the fact that the insurance companies pay for this mutilation is an outrage, and it is high time that we stood up against it and protected the most innocent among us. It used to be that as a culture and a society, we protected children. We enacted laws to protect children, to say, oh, you know what? Children at the age of 6 are too young to get married. But now we're going in the opposite direction, and we're saying children at the age of 6 should be taught about sex.
I think that I don't think they should be taught, like, how to have sex. I think that's what she means when she says that. Obviously, that shouldn't be taught. But they should certainly be taught about, like, their bodies and how all of that works, right? At, I don't know what age, middle school, at least, I believe. You know why? Because once they understand this subject, it lowers the abuse rate. Because they understand what's happening and they understand when something is not quite right. When something needs to be said or when something needs to be done on their behalf. If they have sex ed classes, it lowers the rate of abuse. But she's going to twist this into, like, they're trying to take advantage of children or something by simply teaching them sex ed. Like, if you don't want your child in sex ed classes, unfortunately, you can opt them out. I didn't have a sex ed class. My parents opted me out of sex ed. Anyway, these people are just the lowest of the low, genuinely. Like, this really upsets me. Having personal experience with the whole homeschooling side of things, it really upsets me. Knowing what these children are going through and that this shithead right here is making that happen, is making it more difficult for innocent children for the abuse of innocent children to be caught. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. All right, awesome. Let me write that timestamp down. $50 to $120. Awesome. All right. So that's done. What else do I have here? Like I said, this one's going to be a little bit more casual, maybe a little shorter because I already have some videos lined up. We had homeschooling. Okay, got it. I'm going to play a video that gets me hit every single time I play it for hate speech, basically. But I feel like it's important to not forget what these people are about and what they're up to. This is Tony Perkins. He's the leader of something called Family Research Council. It's a think tank, a right-wing think tank that is anti-LGBT, about as anti-LGBT as they get. He's out of his gourd, insane, and hateful, and wants to destroy the LGBT community at any cost. I mean, he's the type of person who would contribute to Project 2025. I'm not sure if he contributed directly or not, but he knows basically all of the authors. Listen to this.
There's something different about this June. There are fewer rainbows. No, I'm not talking about the sign of God's covenant that appears in the sky after a storm. I'm talking about the rainbow flag that has become the symbol of Pride Month. For years, June brought a predictable wave of corporate logos, advertising campaigns, themed merchandise, and public celebrations. Parents learned to pay close attention to commercials and family programming. Sports fans grew accustomed to Pride-themed uniforms and promotions. And many city streets became venues for often indecent displays at Pride parades.
No. My wife worked as a lawyer for the actually a law clerk for the Human Rights Council, the New York City Commission on Human Rights, or Human Rights Commission, or whatever it is. She works for them as a law clerk in law school. It was really cool. Anyway, we got to march in the New York City Pride Parade as a result. And that's when I learned that all the shit that these people say about pride parades being inappropriate is completely fucking made up. I was there with my kid. They're done? Okay. I was there with my kid looking for, whatever, because I want to see. I'd never been to a pride parade. Like, is this going to be inappropriate? Guess what? It wasn't. It's completely normal. People were dressed up and just having a good time and hanging out and all that shit. I have to go grab something real fast. So again, I'm going to let something play for just a minute. Just looking for something slightly on the longer end. Yeah, let me open this. All right, I'll be back in just 1 second. I got to go grab something.
Yeah. I mean, like you used to say all the time, it's from the table of contents to the maps, literally.
Yeah.
And
well, let me say
we're
this
just
too.
not teaching on it.
Let me say this too, that one of the reasons that we do programs like this, and we did 2 telecasts on Manifest with Shane, it's not to try to convince the church of one thing or another.
That's right.
Because you're going to either say that's demonic, supernatural, may have a little bit of angelic stuff in it, we don't know.
Right.
Or you're going to say, I don't believe it's all crazy. I
Right.
mean, you're just going to be one of 2 camps. So we're not trying to convince that. Here's the thing I want to tell you. I was with a group of people. I was actually at a clinic recovering, And the people that I met, that I was talking to and sharing with, there was about 6 or 7 of them there. Most of them were not church people. One
Right.
girl, the only thing she ever knew was some guy got swallowed by a fish. That's all
Right.
she knew about the Bible.
Right.
So I sat down at a table one time and I said, hey, I'm a minister. Why don't you guys ask me any question you want to ask? Here's the questions I got. Ready? Now, these are secular. Now, this is what I'm trying to tell you who are watching who may go to church. There's a whole bunch of people who don't.
That's right.
But let me tell you what their questions are. Question number 1, where did dinosaurs come from? And when I talk to young people, that's the question they want to have. If the earth is 6,000 years old, where did the dinosaurs come from? Because the scientists say they're 100 million years old.
Right.
It's a question. Nobody wants to answer it, though. You got to have faith. Just believe in faith. No, people want answers.
That's right.
I want to give people answers, at least give them the possibility of answers, something to think about. The second question was the earth like 6,000 years old and creation story? And here's the big one. Ready? What are UFOs? They all wanted to know, is a UFO real? Do you think there's life on other planets? If they are, how they get there? What are these things showing up? And this is before all this came out. This is years and years ago, right? Now, when you hear me teach, or you hear someone say alien, immediately, if people are not paying attention to the context of what you're saying, there's people out there saying, Perry Stone believes in aliens. That is not what Perry Stone's ever said. The secular world uses the word aliens. Let me tell you the phrase the Bible uses, fallen angels.
That's right. That's right.
The B'nai Elohim, 2 Peter 2:4, Jude 6, fallen angels.
I do believe in life on another planet.
God's out there.
There's a place called heaven, and it's got all kinds of beings in it. You can read.
And got some strange-looking
beings in it. So I do believe in life on other planets.
I do too. So there's your answer for that, right? But what concerns me, and let me go back to that again, because, there were, and this is the mystery of ages past, before the flood of Noah, there is definitely evidence. There is evidence in historical documents that are 5,000 years old, 5,500 years old, 4,000 years old, that there were a group of giants on the earth.
Yes.
How did they get here? Moses.
There's no evidence of that. Moses wasn't real. Okay, sorry. Let's continue with Tony Perkins.
Well, this year's noticeably...
Wait, yeah. Anyway, these people have been trying to slander the LGBT community, lie about them, destroy the reputation of LGBT people generally for a long time. Fascinatingly, he had a very different message a few years ago, but under Biden, about pride parades. And I want to look at what he said about pride parades all those years ago. But make note of what he says about them under Trump here.
This year's noticeably different. The symbols are not all gone, but there are far less prominent ones. It is premature to say that pride has fallen, but it is fair to say that the appeal of Pride Month has faded. Corporations are rethinking their public affiliation with a cultural agenda that, according to a Gallup poll released this week, is losing support among Americans.
So, is the LGBT community losing support among Americans? I'm not sure. Maybe. But this is a fundamental right that people have, to live their life the way that they want to live them. This guy can't live with that. He can't accept that. He wants you to live your life the way he wants you to live your life. But I find it fascinating that when you think about it, they're getting what they want, right? They're stigmatizing the LGBT community. They are scaring companies enough to make them wary of sponsoring, pride parades or whatever, or showing their support for the LGBT community. This administration is scaring people out of participating, scaring companies out of participating. And that's very intentional. But even when he's winning, or he's interpreting this as winning his cultural battle or whatever, he still has to be a victim. Even when they're successful in their efforts, he's still the victim.
The Obama-Biden era push to promote transgenderism among children.
Oh, fucking please. That never happened, okay? Nobody has ever, quote unquote, pushed transgenderism among children.
Limiting treatment options to only experimental drugs and surgeries has prompted many Americans to reconsider the movement's underlying motives. Increasingly, Americans see pride parades not merely as expressions of tolerance, but as demonstrations of cultural influence reaching into every corner of society. For many, concerns over gender identity policies involving children became the point at which broader questions about sexuality, marriage, parental rights, and cultural authority converged.
I'm sorry. One more time.
Identity policies involving children became the point at which
identity policy involving children is where all these things converged.
Broader questions about sexuality, marriage, parental rights, and cultural authority converged. As many warned years ago, the debate was never simply about the right to marry the person one loves.
It has always been about that. It converged on children, specifically because these shitheads wanted it to. These people wanted it to be about children because children are a soft subject for a lot of people. You know, there are a lot of parents out there. And parents put themselves in their, and parents can put themselves in shoes that non-parents can't when he's talking about this. Like, imagine sending your kid to school and they're being brainwashed to be gay. And they come home and they say, I'm gay now, Mom, or whatever. That's obviously not how it works. But these people live in this delusion. Honestly, a delusion created by this guy and others. They live in this delusion where this is a problem that exists in society, where children are being convinced to be gay. Fucking disgusting.
It was also about redefining long-standing social norms, including those governing parent-child relationships.
No. He literally said it's about promoting pedophilia. That's what he just said. He said gay marriage was never about marriage. It was about pedophilia. What is wrong with these people? This is seriously evil. These people are fucking evil.
When schools withheld information from parents about a child's social gender transitioning, many families saw the connection between what was happening in the classroom and the broader redefinition of marriage and family. As a result, public opinion began to shift. That shift is showing up in the corporate world. Companies are not only scaling back Pride Month promotion.
Well, actually, companies scaled back Pride promotion and support out of fear of the current government. That's why they did that. The year that Trump won, in June 2025, Pride parades across the country were not happening or were not sponsored by anybody. No company felt comfortable putting money toward anything or sponsoring anything at all. They were too afraid of what the government was doing. Literally throwing people into concentration camps, like actual real concentration camps. Namely, El Salvador and others. Guantanamo Bay.
Motions, many are abandoning participation in the Human Rights Campaign's Corporate Equality Index. The 2026 index lost 65% of its Fortune 500 participants. Whether driven by conviction, consumer pressure, or shareholder concern, many corporations are recalculating their public association with LGBT activism. Now, by itself, that would not prove a cultural realignment. But combined with developments in states across the nation, it suggests something more than a temporary retreat.
I mean, is this really the world we want to live in, where people are too afraid to express themselves, to be who they are? I mean, this is directly stifling free speech, right? These companies and these people felt comfortable expressing themselves, expressing their ideas and opinions and feelings and experiences and everything. And then Trump got in and literally started putting people in concentration camps, and now Pride Month is scaled back. Is that what you wanted? Did you want people to be afraid to speak their mind and live their life and be who they are? You know, right-wingers often say the left is about collectivism and the right is about liberty or libertarianism or whatever. That's complete bullshit. That has always been bullshit. The left has always been about liberty, about free choice, being who you are, living your life independently, and I don't give a fuck if you don't like that I'm gay or that I'm trans or that I'm whatever. That's what the left has been about this entire time. The right, on the other hand, is actually about collectivism. Do you know what fascism is in a nutshell? If condensed into one sentence, it would be conform or else. Whatever we have to do to bring society back to a better time, we will do it. And if you don't fit into that mold, then you don't belong here. Conform or else. Being gay is wrong. Being trans is wrong. Being an immigrant is wrong. All of this shit is different. And it doesn't serve the collective body to be different. So you need to get the fuck out or change to be more like us. That is a fundamentally collectivist mindset. A fundamentally collectivist way of viewing the world. These people can pretend all they want that they're about liberty and freedom of speech and all that shit, but they never were.
Republican leaders have moved beyond symbolic resistance to Pride Month and are increasingly advancing proclamations and policies promoting the nuclear family. Among the arguments they cite is extensive social science showing that, across numerous measures, children do best when raised by a married mother and father.
I don't think that's true. You know what? No need to wonder. Just loaded up our question gun. Let's go answer hunting. Let me look this up. Hang on 1 second. Oop, wrong button. Sorry, still looking. Hang on. 1 second. Hold up. I'm sorry. I'm still looking. Okay. So according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, they reviewed over 60 studies and concluded children of same-sex couples fared just as well as those of heterosexual couples. The group says it did a review of the scientific literature and found that children of same-sex couples do every bit as well as the children of heterosexual couples. Their position is that children's well-being is positively impacted by a family structure of support and security, regardless of the parent's sexual orientation. That's from the American Academy of Pediatrics and from NPR. So this is just a lie. He's just making this up completely. Fabricated garbage. It infuriates me how these people get on here and just make shit up.
Here is why I believe it's more than just a passing fad. Corporate leaders and elected officials are responding to the people. For several years, parents refused to back down. They attended school board and city council meetings opposing boys and girls sports and mixed-sex bathrooms, and in many cases ran for office themselves. They won seats, changed policies.
What he's describing here was actually a coordinated, astroturfed movement to try to force this shit on people. Nobody actually wants 90% of the shit that these right-wing extremists are doing at, these school boards and stuff. But they're being paid, actually funded, to go to these school board meetings around the country in different school boards and scream at the school boards until they get what they want.
And reshape local governments. There are fewer rainbows this June. That doesn't mean that cultural debate is over, but it does suggest that millions of Americans who refuse to surrender their convictions are beginning to see the impact of their perseverance. Parents and...
I'm sorry, one more time?
Surrender their convictions are...
refusing to surrender their... refusing to surrender their convictions. Nobody's asking you to surrender convictions. Sit over there in the corner and have your convictions all you fucking want. If I want to get gay married, that's none of your fucking business. I just don't, understand how these people can say, I am for freedom of speech, I am for individual liberty, and also say this shit, and nobody sees the contradiction. Nobody's, picking up on this. I don't understand. How are Republicans still known as a party of personal liberty? How are Republicans still known as the party of fiscal conservatism? They're a fucking mess. I just don't get it, man. Anyway, this is a very different video from the one that he put out a few years ago, whenever it was. 2021. Listen to this one.
Stand. I'm your host, Tony Perkins, president of the Family Research Council. Tonight, surviving the rainbow onslaught. When you can't turn on the television, shop for cereal, or scroll through Facebook without being hit over the head with LGBT pride, how should Christians respond?
By minding your own fucking business? You ever knock that one around the old noggin? Leave people alone? Let them live their life the way they want to live it because it's none of your business? No, that didn't cross your mind? Okay.
Thanks to woke corporate America and the most radical administration in history, there's no escaping
the most radical administration in history.
Last forced sexual revolution. What does the Bible say about confronting the culture's rebellion? How did we get to the point where celebrating sex and transgenderism became a 30-day event that rivals Christmas?
Fucking please. Rivals Christmas. Really? Pride Month rivals Christmas?
We have a president who's flying the rainbow flag above the U.S. flag at our embassies. Democratic...
Above the U.S. flag. How dare he? It's terrible. It's so wrong.
Congress that thinks the military should salute pride on base, and a White House that brags almost 14% of its 1,500 appointees are LGBT. You can't blame people for wondering, when did we become identified by our sexual proclivities?
They're proclivities. I see. They're sexual proclivities. Being gay has nothing to do with sex. Actually, I really need this to soak in. If you're like a conservative listening to this right now, and this is the first time you've heard this, really consider what I'm saying here, okay? Being gay isn't about sex at all. It's about who you love. It's about who you want to date. Would you want to... Imagine you woke up and you were in the opposite body tomorrow. And people were trying to force you to be with somebody, with a dude, even though you in your brain are a dude, for example. Imagine that for a moment. What's so wrong with you being with who you want to be with? I just don't get how these people can look you in the eye and say, I am for freedom of speech and individual liberty, and then hold the positions that they hold and say the shit that they say. I just don't get it.
The world is upside down when American pride is something we should apologize for, but sexual perversion is the stuff of parades.
Nobody says that you should apologize for having pride in your country. That's not the problem. The problem is your insane ultra-nationalistic beliefs. Your Christian nationalist nutcase beliefs about how you should be able to control the country uniquely because God ordained it or some shit. That's the problem. Anyway, these people are seriously broken inside. My God. Let me know what you think in the comments. Happy Pride Month, everybody, by the way. We're still dealing with shitheads. We will always have to deal with shitheads. But you know what? As long as there's somebody left to fight, the fight will always be there. The fight will go on. Yeah, tell me your thoughts. 46. I hope that was long enough. I think it was. All right, so that's 4 UFOs. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking here. Okay. Yeah, let's cover a couple more videos, I think. Tabs. Lou Engle. Tony Perkins is done. Test. Okay. Oh, this guy. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good. We'll cover this dude now. Okay, there's this congressman named Marks, I think. This dude here, he's a Republican. He said some real weird stuff in this interview. I think he said he murdered somebody. His dad forced him to murder somebody when he was 7. Which, like, wow, that's insane. I'm so sorry you had to deal with that as a child. Like, that's wrong, right? And then the interviewer says, have you killed anybody else since then? And he wouldn't give a straight answer. What the fuck? Anyway, he was bizarre in this interview. Let's listen.
You perform exorcisms, commanding demons to come out of people. Can you explain to me how that works?
When you say I perform exorcisms.
Yeah. You described yourself as a quote-unquote reluctant exorcist.
Right.
Yeah. Describe to me how your exorcisms work when you command demons out.
Well, that's a joke, the way I say that. But as a follower of Christ and someone who's very familiar with evil, that's been both forced upon me as a kid and then seeing the effects of it in humans' lives, I believe the Word of God that I can pray for people and see people set free from whether it's demonic oppression. I never call it possession. I believe there's levels of demonization.
Like, it feels like he's hedging right now. It feels like he's trying to sound more reasonable. Bro, you sound like a fucking nutcase, and no amount of hedging is going to fix that.
Where people are suffering because of evil.
But could you explain to folks who have never witnessed this, don't understand how it works? I've heard you describe it a number of times. You've got the 2 angels with the swords, you've got the circle of judgment, and you command the demons out of someone. Can you explain to folks how that works so they can hear you describe it?
Well, I don't command the demons to come out of someone. I think of them as assignments or attachments to people. And we identify the demon like Jesus did. We ask what their name is, and then we give them commands. And they very frequently and typically will answer.
Great. So is there literally a shred of evidence of this? Can you show me anything? I will take anything. I mean, do you take a video? Do you sound recording? Contemporaneous notes? Fucking anything. I will take anything.
the person's mind. They'll tell us what they hear, and then we destroy them, banish them to perfect judgment from Christ.
You also perform these exorcisms by phone. Are those just as effective?
They are.
Exorcisms by phone. What the fuck is wrong with this dude? Check this out.
You certainly do use specific rescue numbers, though, when you feel that it's...
Oh, no. Wait. Not that one. What's this one?
Your campaign website falsely claimed that you had rescued more than 45,000 women and children, and that claim has since been taken down.
Oh, my God.
How many women and children have you rescued from captivity and abuse?
We've never publicly given the number out for security reasons.
Security reasons? What security reasons could there possibly be for not telling people how many women and children you've rescued? What?
And we don't have a need to. I would say it's more than one and less than a bunch.
That's not helpful at all.
Giving a number would put people in danger.
Yes.
You certainly do use specific rescue numbers, though, when you feel that it suits your purposes. You wrote in February of this year, just last month our team rescued 43 children from the grips of evil predators. Where did that rescue of 43 children happen?
In the U.S., that was by, through, and with law enforcement, through a special operations that we do with protecting children's innocence.
Are you referring to Operation Northern Lights in Florida?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, now I gotta... I gotta know what this is about. Let me just see if I can find some info here. Sorry, what was the name of this video? This is... Hold on. This was, Kyle Clark. All right. I'm sorry. Just 1 second. Okay, so Operation Northern Lights was a U.S. Marshals-led missing child recovery operation run December 1st to 12th, 2025 in North Florida. It resulted in the recovery and location of 43 critically missing children from 14 counties across North Florida. The sweep involved 80-plus personnel from 25 agencies and is considered the most successful missing child operation in Northern Florida. Wow, interesting. These were critically missing kids, runaways, custody cases, at-risk youth, located and recovered by law enforcement. Not a trafficking ring raid. These children were not being trafficked. Authorities made 9 arrests and identified 2 potential human trafficking cases, with investigations still ongoing. Most cases were things like child taken by non-custodial parent. The Marshals named their 25 partner agencies, and this guy's ministry was not in the list. He said, our team rescued 43 children. No. No, in no way, shape, or form is that true at all.
Protecting children's innocence.
Are you referring to Operation Northern Lights in Florida?
Yes.
Okay. So the U.S. Marshals named 25 partner agencies, including 2 rescue ministries that were involved in that operation. They said nothing about you and your ministry. But you're claiming credit for those 43 rescues? They didn't even mention you.
Does that mean we didn't help them?
I mean, I think they would list people who were involved, right? They did list other people who were involved. Why were you not on the list?
No, I'm just curious why you think that is.
We don't require that we be listed or named in any operations.
What is the proof that you have rescued significant numbers of women and children?
And what was his role? Like, was his role very, very small if he was involved? I don't believe he was. I think he's completely making this shit up. But even if he weren't making it up, if your role was very, very small, I can see why they wouldn't have listed him. Can you really claim that as a win for your ministry? Again, not human trafficking. This was like mostly custodial, non-custodial parent whatevers.
Well, I just walked you through our training center.
You show me your own photographs.
Yeah.
Which are not proof of anything other than the fact that you took a photo with someone.
People believing it or not, it has no bearing on our work.
Let me throw out another theory and you can tell me what you think about it.
Okay.
What if the reason that you won't say how many women and children that you've rescued is because that number is actually quite small?
Damn, sick fucking burn, dude.
But admitting that would hurt your fundraising. And now it would hurt your political campaign. So you cite individual stories of rescues, this one story in depth, this one story in depth, and then you tie those individual anecdotes.
Dude, look, he's staring daggers at him.
Together with big numbers, like we've helped 45,000 women and children. And if people think that your operation is bigger and more impactful than it is, it helps you financially and it now helps you politically.
I don't think that's true. And whether...
I don't think that's true. This isn't a matter of opinion, bro. This is not something that you think. Did you actually rescue children or not? Obviously, the answer is no, right? Or he would just tell us the number.
People think we rescued 1 or 100 or 300 or 3,000. I think the response is still going to be the same. We're doing the work that we say we do.
But that's the problem, though. See, you're not. You have no evidence whatsoever that you're actually doing anything. All right, check this one out.
Suit your purposes.
Sorry, hang on. Turn this down a bit. Quit it!
You certainly do use specific rescue numbers, though, when you feel that it suits your purposes.
Wait, is this the same video? I think it is.
You wrote in February of this year, just last month our team rescued...
Yeah, it is. Okay.
You said that you've performed more than 130, quote, missions to rescue women and children from terror and abuse. Is what you said factually true, that you have performed more than 130 missions to rescue women and children from terror and abuse?
Where do you cite that?
You said that on X on August 12th of 2024.
That's not something I believe I would ever say.
Well, you fucking did. Checkmate. Now what?
Your full quote was, I wrote this book, Dangerous Gentleman,
Yes.
after 130 plus missions to rescue women and children from terror and abuse. So that's not true, what you wrote.
I wouldn't, that doesn't sound accurate. That I would
Yeah, people are just lying about quoting you directly. Totally.
Specify how many missions.
These people are shameless, dude. They lie like they breathe. They have no scruples. They're completely ready to just make shit up right off the top of their fucking head, and they don't seem to pay any consequences for this anymore because Trump has so fully and completely eroded public discourse into something vile and disgusting. Absolutely wild what these people get away with. Also, I wanted to find that thing about... Let me pull up the twit. See if I can find... What was his name? Hold on. I'm trying to find one clip. Give me 1 second here. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm still looking here. Yeah, I'm trying to find this one clip of him talking about his dad making him kill somebody when he was little. When he was 7 years old. All right, let me pull up Perry Stone again and let this play for just a second while I look for this.
Right? But what concerns me, and let me go back to that again, because, you know, there were, and this is the mystery of ages past, before the flood of Noah, there is definitely evidence. There is evidence in historical documents that are 5,000 years old, 5,500 years old, 4,000 years old, that there were a group of giants on the earth.
Yes.
How did they get here? Moses said God sent down, well, the Jewish rabbis, the early fathers teach us that God sent angels down in the form of men. You can see that in Genesis 19.
Right.
There's a good example of it. To teach men the things of God and righteousness, because there was no written word from God. So basically in the Old Testament, angels were the ones that showed up, talked to Abraham, talked to Isaac, talked to David. God used angels before there was the Torah to reveal himself. And you know that. It's all through the Old Testament. But when you look at what all of this is about, those angels, when they became men, could sin just as men could.
Right.
Christ came from heaven in the body of a woman. Paul said in Hebrews, a body that has prepared me. But when Jesus came forth as a human and as a man, he could be tempted in all points as you and I,
right,
without sin. Yet he was the Lord, he was God, but he was man.
Right.
But the God side can resist the enemy. The man side could be tempted, which is Luke 4. He was tempted of the devil 40 days and 40 nights. So in line with my thinking here, this is what I want you to see, that there are going to be days of Noah mysteries.
Your claim that your
days of Noah signs repeated. Days of Lot repeated. Those are the two time frames that Jesus talked about.
Did you know that while we're talking about Lot, and you know, the biggest takeaway out of Lot was the perversion that was happening. It's interesting that they're preparing right now on the sea, the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea.
Where Sodom was located.
Where Sodom and Gomorrah was located. They're preparing the largest gathering for homosexuals and lesbians.
In that area?
Yes, as a celebration.
Okay, I found it. Let me just pull it up real fast. All right, here's the clip of him saying that he killed somebody and then refusing to say that he didn't kill anybody after that.
Your claim that your abusive stepfather forced you to...
That was weird. What the hell was that?
...kill a man when you were 7. Your claim that your abusive stepfather forced you to kill a man when you were 7 years old, is that the only person you've ever killed?
The answer is yes. You say yes here. Silence isn't good. I would not recommend silence right now. Are you fucking kidding me? Dead fucking silence? How many seconds are that? Like 10 seconds of just dead silence?
Well, I would say as a child, yes. I mean, without question.
That wasn't the fucking question. The question is, have you ever killed anybody else?
But I've been in other situations where, you know, possibly people or persons died as a result of me defending myself in other countries.
In other countries?
There's no count on that, and there's no photos or...
Are you fucking kidding me right now? There's no count on that? Brother, how many people have you killed, really? The answer should be 0. But okay, you know what? If you found yourself in a tough situation, a tough spot where your stepfather was literally forcing you to murder somebody, that's not you. You're not to blame there, right? I get it. Okay. Your stepfather was a fucking monster. You can't tell us how many other people you've killed? Really? What?
But that was something as a kid, without a doubt. Yeah.
Do you think that you've killed people as an adult?
Does it matter?
Yes, it fucking matters. You're running for Congress. What? Yes, it matters. Did you kill somebody? It sounds like you've killed multiple. He said many, didn't he? Did I miss it? Or did he say he killed many fucking people?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Why?
Killing somebody's a pretty weighty thing.
If someone's trying to kill you or you're in combat?
It's still a weighty thing to take somebody else's life. I mean, it could be self-defense, it could be justified, but it's still a weighty thing. So I'm just asking you, how many people have you killed?
Well, if I did, I wouldn't be telling a reporter.
Okay, that's not making things better. You're making it worse, actually. This is worse than it was before you said nothing.
Sitting here, my training center.
How about voters? Would you tell voters?
There's no need. I don't think that's important.
Yeah, it's important. Yes, as it turns out. Yes, that's very fucking important. I would prefer that my congressman kill nobody. But you know what? Again, like if you were 7 and you were forced by your stepdad or whatever, you know, you were too young to be able to make choices for your own life at that point, and that's something that I think I could forgive. I could look past that shit. But you are fucking 1. Okay? What is going on right now? What the fuck is happening?
Important. It's actually kind of, it's an odd question to me.
It's an odd fucking question?
It's funny you describe it as an odd question because you actually talk about the idea of killing people with some frequency and why it's a necessary thing to do, killing people. You said on NRA TV in 2017, now a lot of them just got to be killed. I've had them shoot at me and I had to shoot back. There's a time and place to eliminate the enemy and you have to. You said on Jeff Lerner's podcast in 2025, some people have to get killed. Some people have to die. But it's an odd question to ask you how.
This is straight up horrifying, dude. Really, genuinely. I hear this kind of talk from right-wing extremist nutcases all the time. Some people just need killing, you know? I hear it from the KKK a lot, too, actually. But what the fuck? A congressman, not only is he saying this rhetorical garbage, he's actually done it. I think that's very clear, right? This dude has killed many people, he said. I have killed many.
How many people you've killed?
Yes.
Sorry.
Jeff Lerner's podcast in 2025, some people have to get killed. Some people have to die. But it's an odd question to ask you how many people you've killed.
Yes.
Okay.
Just, okay.
You claim that you once called in a U.S. military airstrike that killed 70 ISIS fighters. I didn't realize that civilians could essentially facilitate military airstrikes. Could you walk me through how that worked?
No.
Really?
You've previously spoken about the details.
Didn't say them.
Well, I don't want to read back your own words to you. I'm curious how you would describe the act of calling in a military airstrike that killed 70 people.
I'd like to hear my own words.
Honestly, I don't want to spend our interview time reading your own words back to you. I'd rather ask you some other questions that I think are pertinent.
Okay, wow. Jesus fucking Christ. He's obviously a liar, right? Like, every word out of his mouth is a fucking lie. But that one thing where he refused to say how many people he had killed and said it was like an inappropriate question. What the fuck is going on right now? He's 60, Christian ministry leader based in Colorado Springs, founder and president of All Things Possible Ministries, a nonprofit focused on combating human trafficking and supporting at-risk populations. Okay, I bet. He pitches himself as a high-risk humanitarian who goes into war zones like Iraq and Syria to deliver aid and rescue trafficking victims. He also briefly worked as an assistant to James Dobson at Focus on the Family. Oh, boy. Okay. He's running to replace term-limited Democratic Governor Jared Polis. I believe, isn't he the Colorado governor? Yeah, he is. And at one point was considered a front runner. His launch event was described as part political rally and part tent revival. Big surprise. Where he invoked Charlie Kirk and unnamed supporters inside the Trump White House. So he has a lot, like his whole brand rests on dramatic biographical claims, the rescue numbers, the killing claims, and a bunch of other shit that he's apparently just continued to lie about. Like he just lays down lie after lie after lie. He was in the Marine Corps, but all of this shit has been discredited. This is all him just straight up lying. None of this is true. Jesus fucking Christ. Tell me what you think in the comments. This dude needs help, and we will too if he gets office. He probably won't. But why the fuck do we have these people running in the first place? Jesus. All right, let's see. Victor Marks. 46 to 212. That was fucking wild. My God, these people are insane. How many people have you killed? How are we here in this position in the United States right now, where congressmen have to be asked, how many people have you killed? That shit is wild. All right, let me pull up my list here. Tabs. Close marks. Yeah, I think I could call it there. Let me just glance real fast through here and see if there's something else I wanted to hit. I think that's about it. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate it. It's been fun. Check me out on Unfiltered on Wednesday and Thursday if you want to see the UFO stuff. And hell, maybe we'll watch that whole interview. That was wild. All right. I'll talk to you guys next time.